Welcome to Days of Roar, a Detroit Tigers podcast brought to you by the Detroit Free Press. My name is Mark Goraj. I'm here with Tigers beat writer Evan Petzold. We're going to discuss a 2-4 week at home that was kind of disappointing, and you got a chance to sleep in your own bed for 5 days and watch some fun stuff and mostly terrible stuff. Talk to me about what you've been seeing down there.
I'm really tired of the fact that we have this conversation, it feels like every other week, where the Tigers go on the road, they play really well. I say, Mark, do you think they have a chance? Do you think there's any shot that they can maybe compete? And then they come back home and they absolutely suck. And then they go on the road and they play well, and then they, come back home and they suck again. And it's just kind of this constant cycle of this team that can't play well at home but seems to figure out a way to play well on the road. Even when they're playing good teams on the road, I feel like they play decent. I mean, it's not like they've absolutely crapped the bed against, difficult opponents. Like they played well. I mean, they've shown well against teams like the Seattle Mariners. They won a game in Miami against the Marlins. I thought that was a pretty good series, to be honest. The games that they lost were by a couple runs, and that was it. I mean, it's frustrating, though. I mean, they go to Boston, and I thought they played decent against Boston, but at the same time, you only came out of there with one win, but they still played well enough where you kind of said, hey, you know what? They didn't absolutely, kind of fall over against the Red Sox. Like maybe there's something there. They play well against the Twins, at home and then on the road as well. And they play good against Cleveland on the road. It's just the frustration is you come home and they just can't do anything. There's just no offense. And it's frustrating and it's disappointing. I mean, the record shows, right? I mean, the Tigers, it's not good. It's 28-37 at home. Minus 92 run differential. That's no good. And, now they're 12-2 in August. Like we mentioned, it's a 2-4 week. And, they went from me saying, hey, maybe they have a chance to now being, on late Sunday night heading into Monday, 8.5 games out of first place in the American League Central. And it feels like you can kiss those hopes goodbye. Of course, they go and they're going to play the Yankees this week at home. And then, they go to Chicago. And we all know that, the Chicago White Sox have been an absolute train wreck all season long. So the New York Yankees, they'll play them on the road as well. So that's a road series the Tigers could go and they could come out of that. That's 6 games on the road. They could win 4 or 5 of those games. I could see it happening. And then we come back and we have this same conversation. So I'm really tired of the runaround with this team. I just want to know, hey, are you for real or are you not? And I really do think that what we saw throughout the entire week, and especially over this weekend, told me that the Tigers are not for real.
So I'll define something for you. You know what a terrible team is? A terrible team is a team that loses to everybody, okay? You know what a bad team is? A bad team is a team that a little less than 50% of the time plays really poorly, okay? And because you just cannot rely on them to consistently play well. If you want to know what a good-looking team is, I hope you watched Houston play, because this is probably the worst version of the Astros in 5 years.
They should have swept the series.
And they're really good. I tweeted something earlier today, which was in the first 21 innings of the 3 games, they scored 2 runs and had 6 hits, the Detroit Tigers. I mean, look, we can stop talking about, is there a chance? Yeah, there's a chance they'll finish the season. There's not a chance that they're going to finish the season doing anything of substance. So I think what we really need to start discussing is what they finally did, which we have been begging them to do for 6 to 8 weeks. They brought up Parker Meadows, and they need to do more things like that, because whether these players would struggle or thrive, you get to see them against the best competition in the world. They get exposure. They're not over, they get to understand what playing in the big leagues are. And, if these players are going to have a chance or actually play for them and be pieces next year, they get a head start. It's good for the team. It's good for the player. And personally, Toledo's not making the playoffs. I have no idea right now why some players are playing in Toledo and are not playing in Detroit. I mean,
well, let me ask you, Mark, because this is question one of the big two. I'll introduce it, right? The Parker Meadows effect, and is he a piece? To kind of start with that, though, if Parker Meadows was called up, let's say 2 months ago, do you think he'd be doing what he's doing now? I mean, again, the world will never know because Parker Meadows was not called up until, Monday, the series opener against the Chicago Cubs, a week ago from when this podcast is going to publish. But if he was called up 2 months ago, would he be as effective as he is right now? Like, that's kind of the question that I have. And that's what I think, we have to see what Colt Keith looks like when he comes up. What does Justin Henry Malloy look like? How about Wenzel Perez? And some of those guys, we might not see them until next year. I don't know if we're going to see Colt Keith until next year. I think it's more likely that we see Perez. I think it's more likely that we see Justin Henry Malloy. I think those guys are higher on that pecking order right now, as well as some of the other guys in the 40-man roster, like Ryan Kreidler. Andre Lipschitz is another name, Eddie Leonard. I mean, there are some guys on the 40-man roster who probably deserve an opportunity. And I think that's justified because they've been on the 40 and you got to get a look at it. We've had that conversation over and over again. But to my point, is Parker Meadows as effective as he is, as Scott Harris said, in all facets of the game, if he's called up 2 months ago? That's my counterpoint to that. I mean, I understand the push for the young guys. We've been making the push. Do I think that Colt Keith is the most talented option for the Tigers at second base? 100%. Do I think Malloy is probably the most best option for them when it comes to a pure bat that's going to be able to move the ball forward, draw you walk? Yes, 1,000%. Is he better than the guys you have on the roster right now? 1,000%. But is he someone who's ready to contribute right now in all facets of the game? Is he going to have that calm heartbeat in the big moment with the bases loaded? Is he going to have the calm heartbeat when the Tigers are in a 1-1 game and they need a big hit, as we saw Parker Meadows deliver on Friday against the Astros? Are those guys going to have that same calmness to them? Like, I don't know the answer to that question because they're not here, but it does make you wonder if maybe the Tigers waited and they pressed the right button at the right time in making the move with Parker Meadows.
All right. So let's be blunt about these things. All right. So my answer is absolutely. But you have to understand what team president Scott Harris was doing is he was sitting on Parker Meadows until he still qualified for Rookie of the Year and his draft choice that he might be able to earn if he is Rookie of the Year, no matter how long of the longest of long shots that may be for 2024. Was he ready 6 or 8 weeks ago? Well, you tell me. In June, he hit 318. His slash was 318, 350, 545. He hit 4 homers, 13 runs batted in. He had 15 extra base hits and 35 hits for the month. In July, he hit 241. His slash was 241, 361, 544. Pretty similar. And in August, he hit 232, and his slash was 232, 321, 478. So are you asking me, was he ready at the end of June? Yeah, probably. But they had the reasons for not bringing him up. So let's, I think that Scott Harris has a method to his madness. I don't almost ever agree with it, but he's the boss. He's getting paid. It's like when people love to tell me, hey, Mark, he needed to evaluate what was going on. And my answer is, did they pay him for the last 342 days he's been team president? Because if they did, I'm wondering what he was evaluating, because he's not a paid consultant to come in and self-scout the Detroit Tigers. His job was to make them a lot better. And so my question becomes, what's he done to make them a lot better? And that's a question maybe that we can ask when the season's over. But at the end of the day, if you're asking me about Parker Meadows, my answer is I think he was exactly the same player 7 weeks ago that he is today. He could have done the same things. He'd have got a lot more experience, and we would have found out when bad things started to happen, how he dealt with them, how he deals with adversity. Can he come out of it? Can he stay with it? I mean, heck, Riley Green, I think, if I'm not crazy, is 2 for his last 24. And he's, probably struggling pretty mightily in his last 45 at bats. But I'm not too worried about Riley because I've seen him work through these things before. He, exhibits the same issues whenever he's struggling. He's hit an inordinate amount of ground balls, especially to second base. And it's just either he's very tired, his foot's hurting him, or he's just struggling for the first time in 2.5 months. But I know that he's going to come out of it. So
I do want to make a point really quick. It's something that we didn't address earlier, and actually I wasn't completely aware of, because with the new CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, it actually does say that so players that are eligible for MLB's prospect promotion incentive, they have to be top 100 in at least 2 of the 3 lists that are compiled by MLB.com, Baseball America, and ESPN. So Parker Meadows wouldn't have qualified for that, I do not believe. Now, I don't know if because, look, when it gets to the offseason, if Parker Meadows somehow doesn't have enough games, he then gets added to the top 100. Then he starts, obviously with the Tigers when 2024 begins. Does he somehow qualify? I'm not entirely sure. But I actually don't think that Parker Meadows qualified for that. And I do think that Colt Keith might be the only guy who actually does qualify for that. So I don't know if that changes your opinion on the situation at all. Again, that gets into the nitty gritty of the CBA, which can be really difficult to understand. And it can be kind of frustrating sometimes too, to kind of read between the lines of what it's actually trying to say. But it sounds like players actually had to be in the top 100 on 2 of those 3 lists, MLB.com, Baseball America, ESPN, to be eligible for the prospect promotion incentive. Now it also seems like, though, players can still get a full year of service time if they win Rookie of the Year, regardless of when they're called up, even if they're not, on the preseason top 100. But for teams, it's like, hey, if you have a top 100 guy, promote him to the big leagues. And if you win something, then you get a draft pick because of that. That's why Julio Rodriguez got, and I think Michael Harris, the second, didn't qualify because he didn't spend enough time on the roster, first and foremost. And then,
correct.
Secondly, he also wasn't on 2 of the 3 required preseason top 100 lists. So it is a preseason top 100 list. So maybe Parker Meadows lights it up at the end of the year, gets added to that, and then maybe he's in the mix. Like, I don't know exactly how the details of all that work, but it is something to consider that it is a little bit more up in the air than maybe as cut and dry as we initially thought.
So you asked me the question. So I'm sure there are some people you can call in the front office and get some clarity on that. And I'd be very interested to know the answer, because I think you bring up an outstanding point. But let me hear the Evan Petzold perspective about, based on what I told you, and now you're watching them, and, Parker Meadows, of all the prospects the Tigers have, may have the most minor league at bats out of anybody. So you tell me if you think 7 weeks extra in Toledo magically did something to put the last polish on Parker Meadows' game to make him at least look like he's ready to contribute at the major league level. What's your thought about that?
I don't think so.
You don't think that the last 7 weeks make a big difference, or you think they do make a difference?
No, I don't think they do. I mean, look, I think that Parker Meadows is Parker Meadows, and he is who he is. And I do understand, like, the idea of, hey, we want to get him more at bats against different types of pitchers in AAA. These are guys that are going to be shuttled up and down. Like, he's going to maybe see some of these arms when he comes to the big leagues. I understand the point, and I get it completely. And it does make some sense. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like, part of me believes in the athlete, right? Like, I believe in the athlete as opposed to some idea that, like, hey, they need an extra 7 weeks. I believe in Parker Meadows because I've seen Parker Meadows play well. I've seen him in spring training run the bases like a speed demon. I've seen him track down balls in center field. I've seen him piss all over balls for home runs. I mean, we've seen that in spring training, right? So I think for me, I believe in the athlete before I believe in just this like made up date or this made up time, or like, again, what's to say that, like, Parker Meadows was called up on a Monday. What's to say that he couldn't have joined the Tigers on, I don't know, the Monday before that, or the Monday before that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of one of those things. I understand they wanted to debut him in Detroit. It makes total sense. Like, that was a wise move by the Tigers in the front office. But, like, what's to say that he wouldn't have been ready a week before or 3 days before or 14 days before. Like, I think the player is the player. And also Parker Meadows is going to come with the same flaws that he's going to come with, if he would have been up here 14 days before. Like, there's still going to be a lot of swing and miss in that bat. Like, there are going to be ups and downs. Pitchers will learn how to pitch against him. They will expose the crap out of him, and they're going to force him to make an adjustment. Like, that would happen whether he was up here today, yesterday, Monday, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, right? Like, that would still be the case.
Agree 100%.
That's my take.
Look, so let's talk about the fun stuff, because Parker Meadows was a lot of fun this week, huh? I mean, a couple things. I mean, look, we can talk about the home run, but you're sitting in a great spot to watch him play defense. So there's a lot of room out there. It's
ridiculous, Mark.
It's not like playing in Marchant Stadium in the spring for 4 innings. What have you seen? How quickly does he glide to the baseball? How's his jumps, and how much ground is he covering? Because he makes it look really easy.
He makes it look way easier than it is. I mean, look, here's the best way I can put it. Riley Green was pretty comfortable in center field. Riley Green had pretty good instincts. He had a pretty good first jump when you look at both, last year and this year combined. Wasn't the fastest player, didn't always take the greatest of routes, but this was a guy who had a pretty good first step, really good with the pre-pitch preparation, and, he went as hard as anybody in center field. And the Tigers moved Riley Green, arguably like their up-and-coming franchise player, off center field for Parker Meadows. And I think that tells you everything you need to know. Like, Parker Meadows is legit in center field. He makes it look easy. He reads balls off the bat extremely well. He takes great routes. He knows when to dive. He knows when he doesn't need to. He commands the outfield. It seems like, even really right away, like right when the game started. I mean, he made his first catch that he had in his first game. He kind of gave a little point to Akil Baddoo, who was playing in left field, Riley Green in right field, and kind of gave a little nod. And it was like, okay, yeah, like, I'm in control of this outfield. And he's really owning it. Like, I think that's probably where his game shines the brightest, which is really dangerous because the guy's drawn 5 walks with 9 strikeouts. And I'm going to emphasize the 5 walks since he's been up here. Also had a monster home run. He has wheels on the bases. There's so many things that he brings to the Tigers. And to say that, like, his defense is probably the number one, the brightest star of that bunch, and you're already seeing as much as you've seen out of the bat and on the bases, I think that tells you a lot about just how good his defense is, but also how good the player could be too. So, yeah, I mean, it's as good as it gets. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, his defense looks pretty special. I think Riley will be fine in right. I think he'll play a lot of right. I also think he's really got the potential to be very, very good in left, better than he is in right. I'll be interested to see what they do about that. I have a few thoughts about that we don't have to discuss today, but going forward, I'd love to see them get a power-hitting right fielder that could run and play some defense, even if they'll only be around for a year. Parker's been really impressive. I think his capacity to draw some walks, his patience level, get deeper in counts, swing decisions, been surprisingly good.
Well, look no further than Friday's game. I mean, he got Ryan Presley on the mound for the Astros, who's as good as it gets. And Parker Meadows is in the box with runners on second and third and 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. It's a 1-1 game. And he needs a big hit. And he came up to the plate earlier in his MLB debut. I mean, it was his MLB debut. Like, he had an opportunity with the bases loaded. He had a couple other opportunities with runners in scoring position and wasn't able to come through. But he had really good at-bats throughout, and that paid off on Friday when he's in a situation where he takes first pitch change up, a little bit outside, but, in the strike zone, takes it for a called strike. He's behind 0-1. And in that situation, it's really easy for a hitter to get overly aggressive. You see the guys on second and third. You got to drive in those runs. And it's not even about hitting a home run in that situation. It's just about, I got to get the ball in play. There's 2 outs, runners on second and third. I got to get on base. I got to get on base because the run is going to come home if I can get on base. And that wins the game. And, Ryan Presley goes down in the dirt with a changeup. Meadows doesn't swing at it. He goes outside with a slider. Doesn't swing at it. And then he gets a curveball inside. It was hung a little bit up. It was pretty much like middle in. And he just absolutely turns on it and belts the thing. And it's a 3-run home run, game over. Tigers win 4-1, walk-off fashion. It was a great moment. Torkelson and Green come up with the Gatorade jugs, pour it all over Meadows and Trevor Thompson from Bally Sports Detroit. Jake Rogers comes up with the shaving cream and a towel and rubs it all over Parker's face. But I think the quality of that bat there was the most impressive thing to me. Like, we know Parker Meadows can turn on the ball and hit a home run, but it's laying off that changeup down in the dirt after going down 0-1 when you can get really overly aggressive in that situation. That tells me he's very mature. He's very comfortable. Now, is he taking that pitch if he's called up? Again, if he's called up a month earlier, if he's called up a month and a half earlier, I don't know. Nobody will ever know. But like, I do understand, and that's why I do understand some of the sentiment of like why the Tigers waited and said, hey, look, we want this guy to be a complete player. We want him to see a ton of different types of pitching. We want him to be completely comfortable in his shoes when he gets here in both, the smaller moments and in the big moments, game on the line. Parker Meadows showed a lot of maturity in that at bat. That was really impressive to me. When I saw that and I went back and looked at where those pitches were and understanding the situation, I was blown away.
Look, all I'll say about Parker Meadows is, was he ready as a prospect? He was well done. Let's just say that. Not well done as in good job. Well done as, rare, medium, well done. He was well done. And it's been very enlightening watching him. There's still obviously some potholes to navigate. Do I think he's, a 275 hitter? Probably not. But at the same time, if Parker Meadows can be 245, 320, 440, 18 homers, he's probably a 3-WAR player with his defense. And as we've discussed many times, you and I, a 3-WAR center fielder, move Riley Green to left. His defense should play very well there. He's going to be a 4-WAR player. And now we're starting to...
It's an everyday center fielder.
Right. We're starting to accomplish things we need to accomplish. Plus, he hits left-handed. Plus, he steals bases. Plus, he plays defense. Lot of good things. It's another piece. It's one less thing they need to worry about.
I mean, he could be a steady 2020 guy, Mark. He could be a steady 2020 guy. I can see it.
He's never, like I said, I don't think he's ever hitting 275. But if he hit 250 with 2020 and he walked 10% of the time, 9% of the time, and played the kind of defense he seems like he will play, yeah, that's a piece, dude. That's a piece. And I think if you're building a core and you have team chemistry, he's part of that. He knows everybody. He's liked.
Nobody dislikes Parker Meadows. Yeah, you talk to anybody in the organization, top to bottom, love him.
So yeah, it's his first week. He's done a lot of fun things. There's many hundreds of at bats. He will be playing regularly for the rest of the year. If I was Akil Baddoo, I would know that I'm not getting regular at bats too much, especially with the fact that I'm sure Miguel, the last 2 weeks of the season's going to play almost every day. So I'm excited to see what Parker can do. I think that he's done a lot of fun stuff this week in what was kind of a weird week. So I want to touch on something before we get to the second question of the big two, but talk to me about Verlander Miggy. It was pretty electric down there today. And, the first at bat was definitely a show. It was funny as hell. What'd you think?
It was a pretty special moment to watch. I mean, even from my chair, right? I'm somebody who I grew up in the Detroit area. I grew up on Miguel Cabrera. I grew up on Justin Verlander. And to see the respect from Verlander and Cabrera, for Verlander, obviously he gets all the cheers when he comes back to Detroit. The fans love him. How couldn't they? And, takes his time and kind of, he notices the crowd. I think he appreciated the crowd. But then he gave Miggy his moment and he stepped back off the mound and, gave a hat tip. He did a little wave to the fans to say thank you, but then, hat tip to Miggy. And, Miguel steps in the box and, kind of winks at him, gives him a little nod. And then right when he steps in the box, he grabs his helmet and he tips his helmet too. And that was a really special moment for me to see as somebody who grew up watching both of those players I know Verlander still seems like he's kind of in the prime of his career, right? Even though he's 40, but I mean, I watched both those guys growing up. I mean, I watched Verlander throw his first no-hitter when I was just a little kid. And obviously I watched him throw his second no-hitter too. I remember where I was in both of those situations. And, I remember watching Miguel with his monster 3 home run game against the Texas Rangers. I remember where I was when he did that, when he won the Triple Crown and, got that ovation in Kansas City, and just, growing up on that. Like, that was really cool to be a part of that and see that from afar. And then to get to write about it as well was pretty sweet. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a cool moment and something that I know that, Verlander is going to cherish, something that Cabrera is going to cherish. And then the at-bat itself was really fun because Verlander started him out with 4 straight fastballs, and the first 2 were up above the strike zone. He dropped down
2 right down the pipe.
Right, 2 right down the pipe that Cabrera fouled off. It was at 92.7 miles an hour and 94 miles an hour. So Cabrera definitely had his opportunity to get his hit there against his buddy Justin Verlander. And then just like, oh my gosh, a nasty curveball just at the top of the strike zone, painted the top of the zone. Anybody that's pissed about the home plate umpire, just stop, because that was a beautiful pitch. It was right on the black. It was as good as it gets. And Cabrera was caught looking. There was no chance. I mean, I think he was expecting another fastball and just absolutely got fooled by the curveball there. But it was cool. Like, I understand that Miguel didn't get a hit against him, and barring like some miraculous postseason matchup, which we're not going back and talking about the Tigers and their postseason chances because I just can't do it anymore. But like, barring that, moment, like, this is the final matchup for these guys. And so just to see that interaction, and then to see Verlander throw in like, the vintage breaking ball to strike him out looking, was pretty sweet. And then they had their second at bat in the 3rd inning. And that was actually a pretty big moment in the game where the Tigers had runners on first and second with 2 outs. Cabrera's up to the plate, and it was foul ball, foul ball, foul ball, foul ball, fouled 4 in a row, and took a ball in the dirt and then then grounded out on a curveball that was down and away. So, Verlander got him again in their second of 2 matchups on Sunday. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, those are 2 legends going at it, Mark. Like, how cool is that? That like these 2 guys are both first ballot Hall of Famers. They played on the same team. They are such like icons in Detroit, and they are such a big part of what the Tigers have been doing for years and years going back. And now they like get to face for the last time as Cabrera gets ready to retire. Like, I don't know, like, how cool is that for you to watch? You're someone who grew up watching those guys too. I mean, obviously later in life, but like, that's a big part of your baseball life, right?
Listen, I've had a baseball life since I'm 6 years old. So, I mean, I used to sit in my room and read the baseball encyclopedia when I was 6. So,
but weren't those guys as good as it got?
I've seen some amazing things in my life. I've been to some amazing things that are historic that I'll remember until the day I die. I mean, I saw Dick McAuliffe, charged the mound against Tommy John, and Tommy John was out for the rest of the season. And I've seen the '68 World Series, riding my bike home to see it, that they played in the afternoon. And I've been to the '71 All-Star game. I've done some amazing baseball things in my lifetime. And in the last month, I have seen 2 things that will always be near and dear to me.
Ohtani.
We didn't really talk about this enough, but the Ohtani day, people could argue, is one of the greatest days in the history of Major League Baseball. And I would argue that is true with anybody that wants to argue it with me. I'd love to talk to Jay Jaffe about that, who always has a tremendous perspective about baseball history. I'd love to talk to, lots of people, David Lorla. There's a lot of people who love and have respect for. I'd like to talk to Lynn Henning about that. And it was such a unique day, but to have that day and today, when the two of the greatest Tigers of all time, who were teammates for 9 years, who did just phenomenal things for a decade together, 2 of the best of the era, if not all, for sure, all time, facing each other for the last time in Comerica Park. I mean, could you get a better build up, more history of the Detroit Tigers, if you love the Detroit Tigers, than watching that? And I would, 5 years from now, after Justin retires at 47, whatever, with 45 years old, when he finally retires, because holy smokes, is he still good at 40?
Chugging along.
He didn't look like he threw a max effort pitch all day.
Well, I thought he did dial it up when there were runners on base. I mean, he really did make some adjustments in the big moments, which, as AJ Hinch said, that's what the elite players do.
He executed in the big moments, but I'm not, I've seen him throw 97 this year, and he didn't throw any 97s today. So, what I will say is he can execute a pitch when it means something, like there's no tomorrow still.
Like that first at bat against Cabrera with that curveball that he threw in. I mean,
dropped it in. So, but just to get back to the history of it, how great was that they tipped their hat to each other before the at bat starts? I mean, oh my God, was that awesome? So,
there's a lot of respect there. Hey, there's a lot of respect both ways.
You think? And
a lot of respect,
and they should be. All right, we're going to get back to question 2 of the big 2 after that Cabrera Verlander discussion, and we're going to be back. We're going to take a break for a minute. Lastly, I just want to add to the Miggy Ver discussion. It was nice to see Miguel launch today, and he's launched a couple times now in the past couple weeks. I think he's trying to do it a little bit more, and I want him to get to 513, which means he needs 3 more. And you might think I'm nuts thinking he could do that, but I think he could actually do it pretty easily. And what I do think is going to start happening in this last month, much more than you think, is people are going to start grooving a few fastballs as the season winds down to try, to give him some stuff to hit, especially if the Tigers are down 5, 6, 7 runs and he's getting some at bats. So
there could be some extra presence, right? I mean, look. I mean, he should have had 2 home runs in the series if it wasn't for Kyle Tucker robbing him of the home run in Friday's game. So that could have been 2 homers in one series in 3 games. Like that was a very real possibility. We've seen him get to that pull side homer more. We saw the Oppo home run that could have been on Friday before Tucker reached up into those flowers out in out in right field and robbed it. But he's showing some pop, and he definitely is. He knows the end is near.
Yeah,
he knows the end is near.
He's trying to launch a little bit, and I'm all here for it. So, all right, let's touch on question 2 of the big 2, which is, what's the plan and who do we see soon? I think I sent you something today, and I tweeted something. I looked at the lineup for Toledo today, and normally it's like going to an estate sale or the junkyard when you're looking at Toledo's lineup in other years. But today, aside from Tyler Nevin, who is far from a prospect, and I think his 52 at-bats tell you I don't think he's getting any more at-bats for the Detroit Tigers, but the rest of the entire lineup were a varying degree of prospect for the Detroit Tigers. And, hitting in the leadoff spot was one Wenzel Perez, who has been absolutely hammering AAA to the tune of, almost 1,000 OPS. I think he has 3, if not 4 homers. He's walked quite a bit, playing multiple positions. He's on the 40. Got to think good chance he gets a look here in another, 10 days or less. Not sure where he's going to play. I'm sure he'll play a lot of places, second, third, outfield, but I'll be shocked if he isn't recalled. And there's going to be probably a few other things. I got to think they're going to recall Trey Wingenter. I mean, Vest has been horrible. Andrew Vasquez. I mean, come on. Andrew Vasquez, I get it, but, I think that experiment should be over tomorrow morning.
Well, look, man, I mean, I wrote my stock watch on the off day, and there's a reason that when I wrote stock down, what I do is I do, 3 players stock up, I do 3 players stock down. There's a reason that I put Will Vest and Andrew Vasquez on the top of that list for stock down, because Will Vest has just looked absolutely terrible. Especially the slider has looked terrible since coming off the injured list. And, he normally executes pretty well when he's put in situations, regardless of them. We saw that pre-injury, but since coming back, he just hasn't been the same. And the slider just hasn't had that same bite to it. So that's somebody that, look, you want to get him right before 2024. I don't think it would be a crazy idea to send him down to Toledo, let him work out the kinks. And you know what? Maybe you get him another look here before the season ends at some point. But if not, like, no big deal. He goes into spring training. He should feel pretty good about his chances of making the team. But obviously, you always got something to prove. As for Andrew Vasquez, yeah, that experience needs to end. I mean, it's a guy who throws almost all sliders, but doesn't get any swing and miss on them at all. So guys are going to be putting the ball in play. Now, not a ton of hard contact, which is a good thing because he's able to limit damage on that. But at the same time, if you're not throwing strikes, if you're not commanding that slider, if you're leaking them over the plate, guys are going to do damage. So if you're throwing a slider and you're not getting any swings and misses on it, you better be able to locate it. And he hasn't been able to do that. That's a problem.
He's walked somebody. He's appeared 10 times. He's walked somebody 7 times. He's had 19 base runners in 6 innings. He's been on 5 teams, 6 teams in the last 5 years. And it's not a mystery. So,
but Mark, you go look at that Toledo lineup, and you're right. Like, there are some guys. Wenzel Perez is a dude. He's somebody that, if I'm Akil Baddoo, I'm worried about Wenzel Perez more than anybody. That's the guy I'm worried about because that's a switch hitter who can play in the infield. But you know what? He's better in the outfield, and he's a switch hitter. I mean, that's something that the Tigers have been dying to have. They need a switch hitter on their roster. That provides so much lineup flexibility for AJ Hinch. He's able to mix and match and maneuver, knowing that he has a switch hitter either in the lineup or on the bench. And that would be a huge advantage to him. Also, Wenzel Perez is hitting the ball great. He's crushing it. Now, here's the whole take on that, though. It's like, he's only played like 28 games in Toledo. He's only got, 125 or so plate appearances. At Parker Meadows at 113 games and like more than 400, maybe even 500 plate appearances in AAA Toledo. If he needed that many to be ready to see enough of that pitching, are they going to be able to just let Wenzel Perez go and give him his chance? I mean, that's kind of where that debate comes in, right? Like, you set that standard for one guy. Are you going to follow it up and do the same with the other guy? Whereas Justin Henry Malloy has just as much playing time in AAA Toledo as Parker Meadows has had. So, like, that makes more sense from that, strategy or from that standpoint. But at the same time, like, you can't deny what Wenzel Perez is doing. I mean, he's walking more than he's striking out in Toledo. He's hitting doubles. He's hitting a ton of singles.
Homers.
He's hitting some homers. I mean, he's not going to be a home run, a massive home run threat. Like, that's a guy who I could see hitting, maybe 10 home runs max at the big league level. But at the same time, if he's getting on base a ton, and maybe you can tap into some of that power, maybe you can get him to be a 15 homer guy, and you have a really good piece that can play infield, outfield, come off the bench for you, switch hitter. I mean, that sounds like plus to me.
Well, if I was Zach McKinstry, I'd be a little nervous about Wenzel.
Well, he's kind of in that boat too, right? But again, don't all these guys kind of fit in that boat, right? Like,
yes.
Colt Keith, second base and third base. More so, Justin Henry Malloy. That's a guy who plays third base. He plays left field. He plays right field. If I'm Akil Baddoo, and if I'm Zach McKinstry, and throw Zach Short in there too, I think they really like what he brings to the clubhouse generally. But again, like, TikTok, come on now. Those are guys that I would be, if I were them and if I were in their shoes, I would be a little bit worried about Wenzel Perez, about Justin Henry Malloy, about Ryan Kreidler. Like, I think Ryan Kreidler should probably get another look. And nothing against Zach Short. Like, I love the guy, great dude, plays hard, works his butt off. As nice of a guy as he gets, but at the same time, like, don't you want to see Ryan Kreidler or Andre Lipshius, like guys that are on the 40-man? So when I'm talking about guys that maybe should be worried about their spot to finish the 2023 season and going into 2024, the list is somewhat short, but it's Akil Baddoo, Zach McKinstry, Zach Short, from a position player standpoint.
I think that if you are 12 games under 500 and you've been losing for 7 years, you better start looking at any player who could be an improvement on your roster.
Andy Ibanez too. Like, I mean, that's a guy that, look, I like what he brings. I see the value, but at the same time, is he really a piece? No, he's not a piece.
No,
we both know he's not a piece.
He's a placeholder, dude. So, I mean, is he somebody's 24th, 25th, 26th guy? Yeah, especially a bad team. But Andy Ibanez, he's done a few things this year. Let's not.
No, I'm not knocking him, but I'm just saying, like, he's not a long-term piece.
Can we find better pieces than Andy Ibanez? Yeah, probably. So, and that's the point is, on this team, sometimes guys that seem to be pieces end up being more than pieces. The Dodgers are great at doing that. They take a guy that seems like he's a piece and turn him into a 400 to 500 at bat guy that's optimized that really helps them. Good teams do that. Tampa does that. I mean, so we need to start seeing some of these kids. Why are they on the 40 if we're not seeing them? And it's not like Wencel Perez is going to be rookie of the year either. So,
hey, September 1st, it's coming, Mark.
It's the roster's expanded for people that don't understand. It's not like the old days where they could bring up 27 guys. They can, I think, expand the roster by 3 now, right? Am I
2.
wrong?
They can expand by 2. Okay. So it's going to go from 26 to 28. They're going to do 1 pitcher and 1 hitter. So,
okay.
Yep.
Well, they also
that's the plan.
And they also can DFA some guys so that, if you wanted to bring up 2 pitchers, you could DFA Andrew Vasquez.
Well, it's the active roster though. So
and at some point in time, I will not be shocked, although we haven't mentioned this. Spencer Turnbull was optioned when his rehab assignment completed itself this week, and they said, Spence, we think you need some more time to work on your stuff. So you want to give that 30 seconds, or I think everything that's been said has been said.
No, I mean, look, it's worth it just to mention the numbers. I mean, we got to touch on that. I mean, this is a guy who had a 7.26 ERA and 7 starts for the Tigers before they optioned him to Toledo. And then he says, hey, I got this neck soreness. Like I actually, I'm injured. So you got to put me on the injured list. I've been dealing with this injury. So the option, gets rescinded. He gets placed on the injured list. He spends all of his time on the IL, makes his rehab starts, and he was absolutely miserable on rehab. The performance was just no good. It was a 6.75 ERA, a 7.71 ERA in Toledo. He made 4 of those starts in Toledo, 2 of them in West Michigan. Obviously, he was better in West Michigan, but he was pretty bad in Toledo. I mean, not only a 7.71 ERA, but 7 walks and only 18 strikeouts, 16 innings. It wasn't great. And so, yeah, he deserves it. Like, it makes sense. Like, is he a big league pitcher? No. Is he maybe one of the next 2 guys that get called up if they need another starter? Him or Joey Wentz? Definitely. But he's not a guy that you want to insert right back into your rotation, especially because Erod stuck around. Now, if Erod would have got traded, maybe we're having a totally different conversation because another rotation spot is open. Maybe Joey Wentz is still struggling a little bit, and you got to make that move. But it's not the case for Spence. I wouldn't be surprised if he spends the rest of the year in Toledo. There is one issue with that. I just needed to mention it with the service time. He's going to end up, if he stays in Toledo for the rest of the year, he's going to end up like 3 or 4 days short of the service time that he would need to become a free agent after the 2024 season. So the Tigers could pick up an extra year of control over Spencer Turnbull by about 4 days because of all this that happened. So not good for Spencer. I'm sure he's not happy about it, but at the same time, Mark, we've talked about it. Just pitch better.
Well, all I'll say is when Spence got optioned last time in May and there was some drama.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
It was some below deck drama. That was some drama. I said, I don't think he throws another pitch for the Detroit Tigers.
I don't think he wants to throw another pitch for the Tigers. I think in a perfect world, then he would like to be traded, but
right.
It didn't happen at the trade deadline because there's no value.
I think he would like to throw another pitch for the Detroit Tigers so that he doesn't have another year of service time remaining when the season's over. But yeah, I think the relationship and the career of Spencer Turnbull as a Detroit Tiger is likely over. Which
is a shame because the stuff is so nasty. Like, the stuff is so good. I know we've talked about that, ad nauseam. I mean, we talked about that over and over again, right? Like, that's been a conversation since he got here. But man, if he could have put it all together, I mean,
let me add some perspective for you. You'll enjoy this. I think the last time Spencer Turnbull was good, Nico Goodrum was a shortstop. So that's how long it's been.
So your point is that it's been a while, not what's actually good. Because again, we can get clouded by that. Bad teams.
It's been a while, dude. It's been a while. Javi Baez was not the shortstop when Nico Goodrum threw a no-hitter. So, he goes into a long list of guys that could have been, that actually had a little bit of stuff, but we're really, at the end of the day, kind of frustrating and disappointing. Had their shot, didn't take advantage of it. So, all right. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about what you think about Cole Keith, but we're going to take our last break and we'll be back in a second. All right, we're back. All right, so Cole Keith really struggled in the month of August in Toledo, just like they were hoping he would. But the last week, he started to percolate, and the last 2 days, he's taken people's lunch money, hit a few homers, reached base, I think, 8 or 9 times. I don't think you can throw a pitch that's on the inner half of the plate to the guy. And I would suspect he's got 24 homers on the year. He's walked 9% of the time. He's over 300 collectively for the year. He's over 900 OPS. We do not know if he can play defense or not, but let's be really blunt about this for a second when you say that. Nick Maton, one of the worst fielding third basemen in Major League Baseball based on both DRS and OAA.
And their defense was terrible against the Astros. Oh, my gosh.
And Matt Verling, he can play third base. He's not good there, but he can play it. He just can't hit, which is something I've said for a long time. And God knows the other day, I've enjoyed a lot of things that Zach Short has done this year. He's been really good at second and third. He's only okay at short, and he's gotten a lot of hits with guys on base. But holy smoke, on Friday night was he terrible. Woo, man, that's a game he'll forget. I mean, he'll probably never forget, but he booted 2, maybe 3. Didn't come through at the plate. It was just a nightmare. And let's be really honest. I tweeted something the other day. I mean, the Detroit Tigers are a minus 1.9 WAR at third base this year. The defense there has been abysmal. It makes you think that Nick Castellanos was okay at third base, just the caliber of defense they've gotten collectively, and they've gotten absolutely zero hitting. So my point would be, even if Cole Keith was a minus 5 or 6 DRS at third base, it
wouldn't matter if he was raking.
But forget raking. What if he hit 260, 320, 450 with 20 homers next year? How would that be?
It wouldn't matter. That's great. Sign me up.
Right.
Sign me up. Because, look, that's essential. Look, I don't want to get back on the Jeimer Candelario train, but, isn't that essentially what Jeimer Candelario is right now? Granted, he's been a better defender this year, but, historically, you look at what he does defensively.
Still a negative defender.
Right. That's basically what Jeimer has been, and I'm telling you, everybody in the world would take Jeimer Candelario in 2023 over what the Tigers have had in 2023. So, yes, sign me up.
My point is, he's not going to violate the at-bats issue for being Rookie of the Year.
Nope.
He
is top 100.
Good chance he makes the team straight out of spring at third base. Decent chance, right?
100%. I think there's almost no doubt about it.
So if you're trying to suppress his service time and you're going to keep him down for 2 weeks before you play him, that'll only you can imagine the outrage.
That would be a really bad look. That would be a really, really bad look.
Yeah, look, Chris Ilitch is used to bad looks. So
that's not Chris Ilitch. That's a bad look on Scott Harris, and I don't think he wants that. Nor do I think he would do that.
Well, so my point is, what's he doing in Toledo for the rest of the year?
Well, that's a good point. But again, I think that there's a chance that he comes up. We'll see. Again, who knows? I think he went through it in July, as we all know, and even in the beginning of August. But you go look at his August numbers. He's hitting 302 with 6 home runs, 10 walks, and 14 strikeouts in 21 games. He's been red hot in August for the most part. Look, this is a guy who knows what he's doing. He's been able to make an adjustment, and that was the biggest thing, was to see him make that adjustment back. And honestly, if Cole Keith finishes out the rest of the year in Toledo red hot, has his confidence going, and he feels like he has something to chase. It's kind of like, what is it? It's the rabbit running around or whatever with the carrot dangling or whatever. You dangle the carrot, right? Like if you want to dangle the carrot with Colt Keith, like that's fine by me.
Is that Rodinger's? I think that's what it's called. It's Rodinger's maze. I don't know. You
something like that. No,
you can tell me.
Email us, but yeah, no. I mean, I think that's fine with me. Like I wouldn't be really upset by that, especially because they're not going anywhere. Colt Keith is going to hit regardless of when he comes up, and again. What if he comes up and he is terrible and it's a total, like it's in his head, it's really bad. He goes into the offseason like in a negative space. Like, that's the last thing that you want from a guy that you think could be like a legit dude. Not only just like a piece, but like an elite level piece. So
yeah, you know how I disagree.
I'm okay with letting him rake. Why?
Because here's my theory. I think if Colt Keith came up here and got his butt handed to him, it would just make him mad and make him work even harder this winter.
I think so too, but I also think he really wants to be in the big leagues this year. And if he's not, I think he feels like he still has something to prove. Yeah, I think you can look at it both ways.
Here's my attitude. If you think a guy's going to be a piece for you, a big piece, why are you pissing him off?
Well, I don't know if they're pissing him off.
Why aren't you trying to make him better? Aren't you giving him an opportunity? I mean, that's how big teams do it. Okay. They don't sit on you forever and worry about your fragility. They give you a shot. And if it doesn't work out, it told us what you need to work on, and they send you home to work on it and they bring you back. Because if you can play, you can play. Okay.
Well, you know what, Mark? Maybe Monday's the day, because the Tigers, they put Isan Diaz through waivers. He cleared waivers. The 40-man roster is at 39 players. There is one spot open. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow's the day for either him or Justin Henry Malloy. But again, I think Justin Henry Malloy, at least in the Tigers' eyes, from the way that they've talked about it, from what I've heard, to them, he is more ready and more deserving of an opportunity than Colt Keith. Not to say that Colt Keith doesn't deserve an opportunity, but Justin Henry Malloy is more polished at this point than Colt Keith in the eyes of the Tigers. That's how I view it.
Well, I could understand not promoting Justin Henry Malloy for two big reasons. One, there's nowhere to play him, especially with Miguel taking the DH at bats for the rest of the season. Okay. And two.
But could you live with Malloy at third base for the rest of the year? Could you live with it?
I think.
To give his bat a chance to get a feel up here? Because I could. And he's someone that I feel like just because of how long he's been in Toledo, he probably deserves it. Like that, he's probably in a point now where it's like, okay, like it's about time.
Listen, Dave Littlefield, you and I need to have a little talk. I'm going to explain a few things.
Oh, calm down.
Who's going to be your third baseman next year if you don't sign one? Who do you think? Right. So why are we wasting his development time and at bats on a guy who's never going to play an inning of third base next year because we don't want him to feel disrespected because he's a terrible defender?
I get your point, but I'm just trying to tell you how they might be thinking about it.
Well, like I said, I'm sure Dave Littlefield, that was going to be his exact reasoning as to why Justin Henry Malloy should be promoted.
Well, Dave Littlefield isn't around anymore, so.
Yeah, he's somewhere. He's getting a paycheck somewhere down there, driving a golf cart, picking up guys at the airport, doing something. I heard he's still in the organization.
I think he might be out at this point, Mark. But
you think he's out?
I'm pretty damn sure he's out.
Dave, I just want to tell you,
he was doing some pro scouting as of last year.
If you're still in the org, DM me. I at least want to know if you're still somewhere poisoning the prospect pool. And I just want to know you're still employed by the Detroit Tigers, and the curse of Dave Littlefield is still a part of the last 6 years.
All I'm trying to say, Mark, I'm not trying to hate on what you're saying because I get your point. But on the list of non-40-man roster guys, like when it comes to the pecking order, I believe that Justin Henry Malloy is above Colt Keith on that list.
I love it when we disagree.
But I'm not saying that. I mean, look, Look, if I was running the team, I'd get him up here both right away. I get Winslow Perez up here right away. I mean, look, you know what I would do, but again, I don't make those decisions. That's all I'm saying.
Well, all I can say is,
but we'll see.
Everybody knows that I think I am qualified to make these decisions.
Stop.
And I would like to see Colt Keith here tomorrow. And
everybody would.
And in the lineup, hitting 6, playing third base.
Wouldn't that be so badass?
It would renew my faith in the front office. That's all I have to say about it. I did want to, in the last couple of minutes, I wanted to ask you a couple of things. I wanted to ask you about Shohei Ohtani being hurt and what you think about that. And then I want to ask you a quick one about Matt Manning for the 26th time this year. So Shohei Ohtani, UCL, still hitting home runs. Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, it really sucks for his value as a free agent. I think he's still going to sign a big deal. Obviously, and whatever team signs him is going to hope, hey, we're going to lock this guy up long term. He's going to rake for us, and at the same time, we got to get him to rehab the elbow. So yeah, hopefully that's the case. He's still going to get a big deal, but again, $600 million, probably not. $500 million, probably not. $400 million, maybe, but maybe not.
I'll give him $400 million.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe not. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I still think he's a Dodger, and I still think that he probably, goes to the rehab and comes back as a pitcher, and maybe he comes back and he's really good. But at the same time, I mean, that's a lot of damage to the elbow. It's a lot to ask for him to come back again and do what he's doing. But you know what? And Mark, if he doesn't come back, we got to witness the greatest baseball player to ever do it. I mean, in his period of time. I mean, just amazing.
No argument. All right. You saw Casey Mize throw 20 pitches. Tell me what you saw.
Nasty. Absolutely nasty. I'm so ready for Casey Mize to come back. He might not join the Tigers until next year. It doesn't look that way just because of the fact that, there's only 32 games left now. So for him to go through a full rehab assignment doesn't look likely. They want to get him out on a rehab assignment, though, which I think could lead to an Arizona Fall League assignment. Now, the Tigers have said nothing about that. That's just, Evan Petzold saying what he thinks might happen. I think Arizona Fall League would make some sense for Casey Mize to get him a few more innings under his belt and let him go into the offseason with something that he feels like he can really build on to come back and be the guy that he wants to be for 2024. But the stuff looks super sharp. I really love the fastball. It was super firm. Casey Mize said mid-90s. Parker Meadows said 96, 97. They had the iPad out there with all the TrackMan data. So all those guys, they were getting the velo readings, as it was going. So I'm going to believe Parker Meadows. I think Casey Mize might have been a little bit bashful with his mid-90s comment. I'm going to trust Parker Meadows when he said he was hitting 97. Casey Mize was still throwing the split. Looked pretty good. The curveball was really, really good. The slider wasn't as good. It's kind of like the last pitch to come for him. So he's going to keep working on that. Talked to Tarek Skubal after as well. And Tarek said, look, I've been around Casey Mize since 2018. That was the best that he's moved. The delivery is so clean. That's a product of the work with Chris Fetter, Robin Lund, Juan Nieves. They took some time and they basically broke down the delivery in 3 parts. They went through some new drill work for each part of the delivery. And, here we have it. Casey Mize has a super smooth delivery aided by the back surgery, both a life-changing surgery for him and a surgery that's allowed him to clean up his delivery. I cannot wait to see what this guy looks like when he comes back because I think that, we have not seen the best of Casey Mize. There's so much more in there. We saw what he did at Auburn when he had the pinpoint command. If he's able to get that back through the clean delivery and through just like the firmness of his stuff and being able to, locate his pitches where he needs to, sky is the limit. Sky is the limit if he's able to command his pitches. That's always been his calling card. He didn't have it with the Tigers when he was up here for his first 3 seasons.
I think Casey Mize is going to be a dude next year. I can't
wait.
The health issues have held him back. I think he'll throw slightly harder with more command, and the time has done him probably a world of good. They fixed his back on top of it. I'm excited to see what he can do, and I'm hoping he can be a dude. I mean, if the Tigers are able to keep Erod, and I hope they do.
I hope they don't.
Yeah, I know you don't, and other people don't either, but I think they got the makings of a really good rotation, and it makes the offseason a lot simpler to navigate, knowing you have 4 really good starters. We don't need to talk about it a long time, but Matt Manning, last 17 innings, only allowed 8 hits.
Is Matt Manning in that list of 4 really good starters?
I think he'll.
If so, you're delusional.
I think he'll get shopped. I think he's a unique pitcher.
Matt Manning has not been very good. I mean, look, Matt Manning has been better over his last 3 starts. Don't get me wrong, but this is a guy who has 4 walks and 6 strikeouts over those last 3 starts. His ERA is 0.51, but you know what his FIP is? It's fielding independent pitching. It's 4.
Don't care.
It's 4. I care. That matters.
You know what matters to me? He gets outs. He gets outs, and he's pitch efficient, and they don't hit his fastball when he's throwing his fastball with command.
Did you miss the fact that he had the back injury that had to bring him out of the game? We'll see if he makes his next start or not. But
listen,
a lot of injuries.
The only person that gets hurt almost as much as Spencer Turnbull is Matt Manning. So I can understand people being frustrated by him. I also know in the last 140 innings, he's got a sub-4 ERA, and he gets people out. So it's if he's your 4th starter, I think he's kind of interesting. So I think he's very frustrating. He's not a real good listener. He's stubborn as a mule, and I could give you 85 other reasons why people don't like him. But I will say to you, if he is in attack mode with his fastball, he is not a bad pitcher. So anyway, I think 11 more days until the big day, huh, Ev?
Yeah, it's coming up. I'm ready for it. I cannot wait. I'm super pumped, and I'm excited to let you do the podcast by yourself on the Sunday after the wedding. You're just going to get to do this thing all on your lonely. You're not going to have me to deal with, and I'll be interested to tune in once I come back from all that, and I'll see how you did. I'll give you a grade.
Okay. I mean, it'll be the first time you listen to the podcast all year, so I'm going to be shocked if you do.
Don't tell my secrets now.
I had a long talk with Savannah today, and the wedding, I was told, is still on. So
yeah, the wedding is still on. Everything's going good.
That's right.
I mean, thank God for her, because she is the glue that holds us together, and she's been so good with everything that we've been doing just in terms of the planning and the prep. She is on top of it, like nobody's business. And yeah, I mean, she's never been like this person who was all in on her wedding. Like, she wasn't like dreaming of her wedding day as like a little girl or anything like that. She always knew she wanted to get married, but in terms of like having everything planned out, kind of to the minute, like she never really was like that. And so to watch her do all that now has just been amazing, and she's absolutely crushed it. And I can't wait to marry the woman of my dreams.
I am happy for you both, and it seems like, believe it or not, Evan Petzold may be the man of Savannah's dreams, which is hard for many to believe, but it's shockingly true.
I'm surprised by it every day. I am very blessed.
I'm excited for you. All right, so
Thanks,
we're gonna wrap it up here. I want to hope everybody will still rate, comment, and subscribe. You can write as terrible comments as you like. I do get a kick out of them, and please do it though. It's how we improve our standing in the podcast community. I'd like to thank our executive producers, sports editor Kurt Crawford and Anjanette Delgado. I'd also like to thank Free Press editor Nicole Avery, and I hope she gives a listen and she's a Tiger fan. I'd, of course, love to thank our boy Robin Chan, who always makes us sound good. And lastly, I'd like to thank Braden Michael Gorash, like I do every week, because that's my grandson. That's my boy. So, former partner Evan Petzold, I'd like to say this is Mark Gorash, and peace.